For those who don't know me, my name's Adam Constantine. I graduated from Elon in 2010. And after that, I played professional basketball for 5 seasons overseas in 7 different countries, some glamorous, some we call those learning experiences. And now I'm the school's social media manager. 2 things that I'm going to talk to you about, both having to deal with a sense of community. The first one is when I was living abroad over in Israel. And to kind of give you some context, a professional basketball contract overseas means you sign to live in another country for the duration of the season, which is usually about 8 months, which means that you're away from your family and friends for about 8 months. That can get pretty tough. Well, my 3rd year out, I signed a contract in Israel. So I was living right outside of Tel Aviv. This was in 2012 when the escalations of tension really came to a peak. There were attacks in Israel, there were attacks in Palestine, attacks along the Gaza Strip, and it was pretty unnerving for an American to be overseas at that time. You know, I mean, it became real. So I am in my apartment, and we start hearing all these different stories about things escalating. So we get in our car, we're driving around. I'm not gonna lie, when I'm overseas, I kind of play the stereotypical American card a little bit. So we might have been driving down the highway with our windows down, bumping Rick Ross as loud as we could. We can neither confirm nor deny that, but music is really loud. We're going down the highway. All of a sudden, we see all these cars start pulling off to the side. So, I mean, all that means is that there's no more traffic for us. We keep passing them, we keep going forward. Then we see people getting out of their cars, getting down, and putting their hands over their head, lying flat on the ground. Okay, something's wrong. So we turn down Mr. Ross, and we hear the air raid sirens. I mean, they're just going off. So we stop the car. I get into a sprinter's position. I'm not lying down, okay? I know I can't outrun something like that, but I'm gonna try, all right? I'll get 3 steps, whatever, that's fine. So we're down, we're kind of looking around, we're pretty panicked. All of a sudden, people start pointing to the sky. Does everyone know what the Patriot missile system is? It's a defense system that the US has in case there are any airborne attacks in the US. Israel has something similar. They call it the Iron Dome or the Iron Kippah, which is pretty cool. So people start pointing, and we see it's almost, when you see planes flying through the sky, we see a missile trail, and then we see 2 other missile trails, and then we see a collision in the air. You hear a soft kind of, and everything's going, the air raid horn's going for a while, and then it just stops. And then everybody else around us gets in their cars and starts driving off. And I'm like, hey, halt. Can we talk about what just happened here? Have a group meeting? Something, because this was serious. So that was something that was built into their everyday lives. So obviously we're shaken up. We go to practice. First thing I say is, coach, they're dropping bombs around here. I kid you not. My coach looks me dead in the eye and he goes, don't be a baby. I'm not talking about getting into a fist fight. I am talking about bombs. So as practice continues, coach goes on this speech about what we would do in the case of an attack at the gym. So I'm kind of getting unnervous. All right, what we would do, we would all gather together. We would go out the back way. We'd go to one of the buses that we have waiting, blah, blah, blah. Really unnerving stuff. So I'm like, okay. Right when he's talking, the gym horn goes off. So I freak out. Everyone's kind of calm. In hindsight, I should have been looking around, but look, I'm just trying to save myself and other people. Mostly myself, but other people too. So I go grab my go bag. Now, in my go bag, I have maps that have the bus station, airport planned out. I have X amount of dollars in cash. I have food in there, obviously. And I have some other assorted items, right? So I grab that and we're going. So we all go around this corner, and the lights go off. So I'm in a very calm and serious state, but I am freaking out. So they're trying to say, we think that there is somebody around the corner, right? Again, should have realized, but I didn't. All my teammates look at me. Well, all right, I'm not a punk. So, all right, fine. You want me to be the hero? Okay, fine. So I put my go bag down, I unzip it, and I take out 2 knives, and I get ready to turn the corner, which at this point, my teammate screams frantically to run because the teammate that was going to scare me was about to be murdered by these weapons that I had in my hand. So that's an elaborate prank that was pulled on me. But the moral of the story is, you want me in your corner when stuff is going down, okay? At the end of all of that, their biggest thing was that they had my back. And there were several of them that were in some pretty serious forces because they were younger in Israel. Everybody has to serve. And they said, look, Adam, if anything happens, I will have your back. And that's always been the case for me because I've been on teams my whole life. I've always had that teammate camaraderie to have my back. Later on in that season, it's about, 55, 60 degrees, which, we know isn't bad, but to Israel is, oh my goodness. I mean, get your turtlenecks out, your big North Face coats on, everything. The gyms also don't have heat. I've had knee problems throughout my career, but it's just something that I've always had to deal with. One particular play, it called for me to go up for an alley-oop, so my point guard throws it. He wasn't the best at throwing passes, but a lot of times that made me look better, so I didn't mind it. On this one, it was really, really high. I jumped from outside the paint, dunked the ball, of course, and moral of the story, remember that part at the end of the story. And when I came down, I felt this horrible pain through my knee. Now, professional basketball is not like college. When you get hurt, you are no longer of any use to your team, and your services are no longer needed. So in February of 2013, my season ended, and I came back home, and my goal, I was focused on getting back to what I loved to do, to what I'd done my whole life, which is playing professional basketball. I did not get a job. I got jobs to make ends meet because I wanted to stay hungry for that. Because I was not going to let this injury define me. So for 20 months, I struggled, and I pushed through it, and I got healthy. I signed that contract in Finland, which was great because I'd done it. And 20 days later, I get injured. My services were no longer needed. And just like that, I realized how much of my identity I had put in being a basketball player. It wasn't on purpose. I'd always said that I was more than a professional athlete. I'd always said I was more than a college athlete. I prided myself on doing stuff for the Pendulum, stuff for one-on-one sports, starting my own a video production company, being the president of the Student Athlete Association. I prided myself on that because I was not just a basketball player. But when that was gone, so was my identity. And I began to question who I was. I began to question my worth. I had never been in a real world situation. I never had a real job. Interviews for me were my highlight tapes. So, I had a job for 4 months after the injury, which I only have 15 minutes, so I'm not going to go into that one. And then I came here, and I was petrified to come back. Because anytime I came back before, people want to talk about my career, how I was doing, how great that this thing I was doing was. And I didn't have that anymore. And I felt like I'd let people down. And the fact that every single time that I see you, you give me the same hug, no matter what I've done. That's why this community means so much to me. And it trickles down. Jana Anderson was my biggest supporter when I was here at Elon. When I was overseas, she was the first person that I told that I was probably done. I'm just gonna say it's a coincidence that I now work for her husband, but hey, life's about networking, that's all I'm gonna say. But the same people that I was afraid I let down showed me that it's not about what I did, but that they cared about who I was. And now, people even tell me that they were excited to hear me today. I'm still in a place where I'm trying to find who I am and what this next stage of life is. But for the first time, I've had a stable environment, a stable community, because it's tough to go to a country knowing that no matter how good of a friend you make over there, it's temporary. I mean, I have friends over there. I have a family that essentially adopted me when I was over there. I've seen them once over the past 4 years. But to be able to have these long-term relationships, to have coworkers, to have people that, I don't know, say that they, appreciate me, that has given me a whole new definition of what community is. So the one thing I would leave you with is you are not defined by any outside circumstance that has placed you where you are today. And that's good or bad. And if that's taken away from you, that says nothing about who you are. Those that are around you that really care, your true friends, they don't care what you do. And if there are those that leave, you didn't need them in the first place. So a sincerest thank you from me for allowing me to see my self-worth again.